everyone. Welcome back to episode 4 of The Architect and the Operative. My name is Selim Maalouf. Joining me today is none other than James Bond.
What's happening, man? I'm so excited that you're alive and like we're still doing this, and I haven't seen you, and it's been a minute, as people say.
Yeah. For those who are wondering, if you're listening to this at some random time, I disappeared on James for a month because I was moving jobs. We're not on the same team anymore. I took a director of marketing position at a competitor, so maybe secretly James hates me, but I know I'm his favorite HubSpot expert.
Not possible, dude. Too kind of a soul. It's impossible.
Well,
it's all good. Friendly competitors. It's all good.
Yeah. Actually, if we're being honest, we don't truly overlap.
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in the same space, and it's possible we might bump into each other, but that I know of, I don't believe I've bumped into your company in like 2 years. So it's not.
Yeah.
I don't really think we're competitors.
We don't overlap. We, in fact, in my day-to-day, I miss the technical integration part of the HubSpot ecosystem. But I'm excited to be joining an AI-forward team that is focusing more on, and everyone who's been listening to this podcast knows how much I love AI.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't wait to have this conversation.
So here's the thing. I'm not doing a heel turn. I promise. I'm still true to my beliefs. And in fact, it's refreshing to see a team that is focusing on the useful and like, honestly, like true use cases for AI instead of, getting caught up in the hype and trying to focus more on things that, let's just say it plainly, trying to replace people's jobs. I'm really happy with the work we're doing, but enough of that. James, how have you been since the last podcast? I know a lot has happened.
Man. Worlds have moved, I feel like, since the last time we talked. I had to actually listen to the last episode because I had to kind of reconnect a little bit. Anyway, no, worlds have moved, dude. Man, I'm so busy. It's a good thing. I'm not complaining about it by any stretch. I'm happy about it. But at the same time, there's always a quality concern. There's always like, man, I do not want the attention or focus to be diminished at all because I'm getting pounded with, inflow. And so it's a good thing.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it is a good problem to have, but I'm sensitive. Like right now, I'm literally on edge. Like I need to just really make certain that, because you know me, I like to, man, when I want to focus, I want to make sure the business gets exactly what they need, and I don't want anything to get in the way of that. But it's been a lot, and again, it's a good thing. It's a good problem to have. Not complaining.
James, what could help you relieve stress and
AI.
be able to AI, artificial intelligence.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
So, dude, you would be so. I was a entry level user for quite a while, and could tell that I was more of a book smart than street smart. With a lot of other things, I'm street smart. I've been there a lot, right, in a lot of different scenarios.
Yeah.
And that's really who I am. But in this case, in the AI category, I was more book smart than street smart. But the influx, like I'm so busy, I need help. Like I need help. And I'm super in tune with some things. I don't want to give away the agenda, but I'm super in tune with some of the things that we've been talking about. And I think you would be surprised looking at my tool set today. I'm not going to give away all my secrets on air, but you would be surprised based on a conversation we had 3 months ago compared to like my world today. Productivity and quality, not just doing more because someone else is doing it. It's not that. The quality has significantly improved.
I'm actually you've caught me off guard, and I'm now actually
Sorry.
interested in hearing about it. So I will definitely circle back to this right after this little nugget. Yes, I've joined a team that works with AI. Yes, AI is the buzzword for Wall Street and corporate America. Everybody's trying to use AI. The U.S. is trying to do an AI race to not lose AI race like in the world. But down here at ground level, for us, people working in tech, AI is all around us. We feel like every single piece of our stack is trying to add some new AI button that does something that could be described as a glorified wrapper for a large language model, most likely an OpenAI or a Claude. But what I've also noticed is with my new position as a director, marketers know that typically we filter outreach targets starting by directors and going up. So now I am the recipient of all of this outreach. And with AI agents and a lot of the data enrichment and data automation with tools like Clay, the amount of outreach has gone up. The amount of generic outreach that misses the point has gone up. The amount of outreach that is kind of working inside of gray areas and borderline going against spam rules in the US is going up. And honestly, I feel like we've taken a step back. I feel like we are losing human touch. And this is not like oh my God, AI is going to take over humans. No, generally, I've been interested in looking at these emails that I'm receiving. All of them feel like we've regressed back to personalization tokens, just done at a massive scale now that AI has given us, the optimization to do, instead of doing 1,000 personalizations, now we do 10,000, 100,000, because we can just, build a table, ask AI to look up prospects, fill out that table, and then ask AI to crawl websites, fill out some tokens, and honestly, all of the outreach I'm getting sounds like, hello, first name, I've noticed that your new job title at new company. Would you be interested in a demo?
Just ridiculous.
Yeah. Have you felt that? Am I the only one feeling that, or
No,
am I
it's
just
there.
joining the club as a newly minted director?
No, here's it's like a lot of other things where until it stops working completely, there's not going to be a change. It's going to continue to ramp. Interesting. I looked this up not too long ago because I needed to research for a meeting. The open rate has not declined relative to quantity of emails going out, which is very interesting. The bad news for you and your point is that, man, we're nowhere near the spot that you want to be at, which is people stop doing it as much.
Yeah.
We're nowhere near it because you're still getting the open rate. The open rate is still in the teens. Man, it's still in the teens. So when you're talking about tens of thousands, that the cost is relatively low. The companies are going to continue to do that until there's some kind of, true decay in not just open rate, but probably in brand reputation, probably in some other area. Like I don't feel like open rate's going to deter them because of the cost ratio to sending it out versus an open rate is still so small. I just don't feel like that's going to turn people's heads. I think something we don't know about today that we're not thinking about is going to cause a disruption. It might only be company at a time. It might not be in the industry, but it might be something like brand reputation, like, oh shit, right? Some some CEO was going to be at a party and is going to hear something and it's going to be super negative and it's going to get them thinking, and he's going to go in or she's going to go in the next day and pull the CMO in and say, this is what conversation I had last night, and I'm not good with this brand reputation. Until it gets to the point where a lot of those are happening, there is no chance whatsoever your inbox is going to lighten up. There's just no way.
Yeah. Same. If you're familiar with number localization for like telephony solutions, you basically get a burner number. That way, if somebody blocks your number, you can get another one. That there's far more sophisticated ways to do that with emails, and this is anecdotal evidence from me, but like I feel that companies that invest in their brand reputation and in their brand marketing rarely engage in these tactics, and it's mostly,
that's a fair point.
It feels like companies who have a disposable brand that rely on these tactics, because if that disposable brand gets burned, we spin up a new one and keep going.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
And with the fact that the threshold that you need for profitability is not percentage based, but is a static like threshold that you need to cross, like we need to hit this amount of revenue. If you just scale up the amount, even if the success rate is low, we just ramp up the amount of outreach we do, and we're going to hit our targets. And I feel that's kind of what's going on today, is the risk to do it if you have a disposable brand is close to zero. And if you have budgets that are not bootstrap, but also you don't need millions of dollars to do it. If you have a set amount of budget that you're able to experiment with, you might be able to clear that revenue threshold while torching whatever brand you have, if your brand is disposable.
Yeah, so, you're right. That's a fair point, and that's actually pretty concerning. But the problem is that that's even more support for the fact that it's not going anywhere. Your inbox is going to keep full for the foreseeable future, as they say.
Yeah. I have a question for you, and you're going to be surprised that it's coming from me.
Oh, shit.
Cognitive offloading is something that researchers have started to study with the advent of all these AI tools. And they're noticing that cognitive offloading, which is basically you giving up your thinking for the use of the machine, and you're not training those quote unquote thinking muscles, and you end up not being a strong critical thinker. Those studies were more focused on the education side and young teens and young adults, but I'm thinking of the up and coming sales professionals that are getting onboarded on these tools today. Are they ever going to learn the fundamentals of prospecting, the fundamentals of outreach, the fundamentals of good sales, good closing? Like, is this training a generation of bad salespeople?
Like we didn't have a generation of bad salespeople before? What do you mean?
Well, my argument
is the answer. I was just giving you a hard time. It is, of course, but I mean,
more so,
this is
more
bad
so
for a different reason.
Yeah, more so than before.
So this cognitive offloading can be perceived as laziness, and they may feed into each other, right? It might be some type of psychological, circular.
To be fair to these reps, if their quotas are unrealistic, then their cognitive offloading is not because they're lazy, it's because they don't feel they have the time to have critical thinking, and they need to push that output to the max.
Yeah, I'm more worried about, that I think that point is less at risk, because if they have a big quota, they're probably capable. They've probably got some They probably got some chops. They've probably got some proven results up to this point. It's more likely they won't abandon their own critical thinking. I'm hoping that that's true. I'm hoping that they'll be like, maybe I need to be more efficient, so I'm gonna try to maximize this tool to improve my own efficiency, and which therefore should affect my effectiveness, because should impact my effectiveness because I'm spending less time doing this and more time doing that. So I'm hoping that's the thought track. The bigger risk, I think, to your point, is the newbies not ever developing that, not seeing results yet, and not developing that the fundamentals, the experience. I'm about to get like the experience of the emotional exchange.
That's why you're
from
here,
a salesperson and a buyer. That experience is what shapes people for the future and their careers. And so the biggest risk to what you're saying is those young people are going to miss that experience, right?
Yeah.
And then it becomes a paycheck and a formula. If I send 100,000 emails that I went and bought myself, and they're all getting 10 emails in a row, all AI generated, and I don't get and I don't get a result. Or if I do, it's probably a fairly low quality opportunity. The exchange may not be very good. It's hard to generate that emotional exchange off of that, creation, that generation. And so they miss that. I'm sad for those people now that you bring it up, to be honest with you. I'm very sad for them, because they're not understanding what this person, I don't know, you know what I mean? This person that you're speaking of, we have that person in mind.
Yeah.
Not by specific, but a generic persona. This salesperson persona that's new, that doesn't really have the experience yet in their own productivity to go off on, to learn from, or to propel them to their next level. Man, they're just missing out on what sales really is about. Just missing everything. And that's the bigger risk. Now, you just got me really depressed out of this conversation. That's the huge risk.
Yeah.
An entire generation of salespeople are very much at risk to missing what sales is really all about.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, a lot of people have missed that for.
Yeah.
This is not new to miss what sales is really about, right?
Yeah. And this problem is not, solely for sales teams. Like, new marketers as well are not learning how to write, not learning how to strategize. They're just offloading their strategic thinking to AI. So it's not just about salespeople, but that aspect that you're describing is not something that you can learn, by applying yourself in a classroom the way that marketers could learn that. You can't learn it from a mentor like you could for marketing. You need to go out and meet people and, fall flat on your face and get embarrassed and pick yourself back up and learn what makes people tick and understand why people buy and why people don't. So, and what they're learning is, all I see is a percentage go down on a graph, and I tweak some numbers in my parameters, and then the graph goes up, and okay, I did a good job.
Yeah. This is a big challenge, and let me challenge you on something that I don't know the answer to, but I'm going to put something forward, and I'm very open to being dead wrong. But there's a component to all of this. This is becoming an AI episode, not planned to be, but it's turning into that. But so whatever that is.
I will make it an AI episode.
Okay. So there's a component to the whole process that is about it is the critical thinking piece, but there's the critical thinking that you're thinking of, and then there's the critical thinking of in the AI world, right? And so for me, what I want the young person to do, and I even preach at this, let's say preach at parties, right? Like if I'm in a group and somebody's bringing this up, I actually preached it to a teacher the other day, and it was a handful to get through that conversation. But I feel like this rule of protecting students, You could insert young person, young professional into that too. Protecting the young from using ChatGPT to do their homework or ChatGPT to do their proposal cover letter. In the hopes that by doing that they will learn more, experience their own, develop their own ability to critical think, like you're saying, right? In hopes that they will not lose their ability to critical think on their own. But dude, that AI is not going away, man. I'm the opposite. I'm like, why is there not a class on how to master it? Why is there not a class on how to interact with it so that the result is better and the result includes part of you and not excludes part of you? Why isn't that the conversation? It's not going away. You may as well hug the bear. Let's go.
I would love for the record to show that this was not planned. We have not talked about this. But
quite frankly, none of our shit is, for the most part.
Anthropic, the makers of Claude, have recently released in beta Claude for Education. And the whole, if I'm going to reduce it to one idea, you know how in education they tell you to show your work? This version of Claude is designed to prompt you. Instead of you prompting it, it will prompt you to nudge it along the right path. And instead of just giving you the end result, it will force you to basically, play a quiz and predict its next step and tell you you're right, you're wrong, and then finally get you to the end. And they're now discussing how to roll this out in colleges. I don't know if they're talking with schools yet, but that's where an AI company whose mantra is we're doing ethical AI is going. Versus, all the other companies that are focusing on, pure max profit.
Yeah. Or students that want to skate.
Yes.
Right? Or young people that want to get ahead as quickly as possible while putting forth the least amount of effort possible.
Yeah.
Right? Same thing. So I love that approach, and I think that shines a spotlight on what's not being talked about. Maybe it clearly is being talked about. That's why they came up with it. But I mean, it's just so what happens is we're a society and we've got this new thing. We've had new things before, and it just scares people, and they don't know it. They don't understand it. What they don't understand, they want away, and they want to be protective. And I get all that. This is not a sociology podcast, but it's like, just get your brain around the fact it's not going anywhere. And that needs to drive the conversation. You can't be a naysayer. It's not about being a naysayer.
Yeah.
There's no way in college that a professor is going to successfully inspire a student to not use ChatGPT. Yeah. There is just no way. Now, what I would love is I would love a professor to say, use ChatGPT, just disclose it. I want to have a conversation about it. How did it go? Get really good at getting ChatGPT to produce the result you want so that it's part of you, not excluding you.
Yeah.
And I think if that was a conversation, it just would be more real. Students would be more honest. And who knows? Maybe the result is better in some cases. Maybe. Yeah. That can't be a bad thing.
Yeah. I'll put it this way.
You can tell me that I'm wrong, by the way, because
you are not wrong.
We've never talked about this before.
I do agree, and you've known me within my uses of AI. I am very clear on where I find it useful and where I don't find it useful, and when I try to avoid using it and when I actually do use it full bore. During the pandemic, when remote work started becoming more mainstream, a lot of companies struggled to work because they didn't know how to control work beyond just hours. And the ones that figured out that with remote work, without you having you being over the shoulder of your employees, you need to switch the conversation to deliverables and track the work by deliverables and make sure that the deliverables are happening. Then you don't have to track if they're sitting on their desk 24/7.
Yeah.
The same way, the same shift needs to happen in education, where you're not trying to judge students by how much they retain information, and figure out another way where you can avoid cognitive offloading, make sure people understand these concepts, but your testing methodology needs to be different. I am not an educator, so I don't know what that looks like, but I know that just trying to test people on how good they retain information they've crammed the night before is not the right way anymore.
I don't believe it ever was, but this is probably not the place for that whole discussion.
Let me circle back to the thing you mentioned at the top of the show. I'm interested in
I don't remember. What was it?
in today's in James Bond's AI tech stack today versus 3 months ago.
So I'm not going to disclose everything because I don't want clients that listen to this to like get all weirded out. But what I have done is I've taken a different approach, and I have treated a couple of different tools. I use ChatGPT the most, but I have approached it differently than I was before, and I approach it as an assistant, a person that works for me, and I train it. I train it every day. I train it in the morning. I train it after work is produced. I typically train it at the end of the day, not always, if I didn't have time to do it today. But I mean, I train it constantly. I'm putting it through vigorous tests, and I'm giving it feedback on the results, and I'm telling it what I want, and I'm telling it what I don't want. And I've got very specialized areas that I'm training it to work in, so that when the work is produced, I really feel like I produced it. Now, I didn't take the time to create every word in the sentence and the verbiage, most importantly, the spelling and the punctuation. I didn't take the time to do that. But when I read the results now, it's very much what I would normally say. It is very alike how I would write.
Yeah.
And it is saving me a bunch of time and catapulting my quality, because I'm not spending time with a blank sheet of paper. I'm not spending that time. I'm spending time making it better so that next time I ask it to do something, it gives me a better result.
Yeah.
And my point, and I hope people get this. I know a lot of people do, but man, there's a lot of people that have absolutely no clue, is that it's not about offloading work. Dude, I've been up at 4 a.m. every day this week. I do not take work lightly. My ChatGPT instance is robust and getting more robust every day. It's not because I don't want to work. It's not offloading work.
Yeah.
That's the whole narrative with all that crap you see all the time. You have a better talk track to all that stuff than I do. But that stuff about making things easy and doing stuff so you don't have to do them, it's not about that. It's about getting a better product in not just less time, but allowing you to spend the time on the things that can really move the needle instead of the things that can be done by an assistant. In this case, an assistant that's $20 a month.
Yeah.
So it's pretty, you and I had a conversation, and I took that and I'm like, man, I'm doing this wrong. I need to really rethink how I'm doing this. And it's producing some really good results.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, actually.
One cautionary tale, though. Make sure that instance is portable, in case you win the lottery, because I am starting mine from scratch, and I've lost.
I made
all
that
of
change right before you and I had that conversation, and then I'm like, I'm going to approach it differently, and I'm like, oh shit, hold on a second, let me think about this, and that's exactly the change that I made.
Yes.
Right. Nothing
Folks,
bad about any. Like
yeah.
I'm just. It's
Learn
not
from
a.
me, folks. make the instance that you're training very hard portable in case you win the
Yeah.
lottery.
No, and quite that's like anything, but yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I have some now that I'm by the way, congrats. I love to hear this. I attest that that's amazing progress that you've made in your with your approach. Now that I know you can handle this, I'm gonna
Hold
give you
on.
a couple of suggestions.
Okay, I want them, but let me finish because that suggestions might apply. So, I want anybody that's listening to understand that it's not just about work. Like I'm saying, it's improving my productivity. It is. It's giving me a better result. It is. But I do it in all kinds of different areas in my life. This is my personal assistant that helps me in areas that I want help in. And one of them is in tracking travel stuff is one example. So I have a whole channel that's like travel. We try to travel a lot. I'm flying out to Aspen tomorrow. And so I upload the shit and I'm like, I need to know, here's how I want my itinerary. I want it in 3 different ways. And I want this information this way, this information this way. And I want it duplicated at the bottom of the 3rd way. And by the way, based on everything you've learned so far that I've been feeding you over the last 2 months of us planning this trip through this one channel, please create my packing list.
Yeah.
Kidding me?
It's
Shit
amazing.
spits out in like 8 seconds. Here's what to pack.
Yeah.
Don't be stupid.
So,
Sorry.
because I trust you now, and I think you've leveled up. Now I can talk to you about context windows, which is basically how much the model can remember at a time. Context windows is measured by tokens, and tokens are basically a way to translate how much information it's holding. And that's how, when you hear like, oh, cost per million token is this amount of dollars, that's what they're saying. So each model has specific context windows. Those don't stretch to the entire conversation. So you'll notice once one conversation starts getting too long, it starts derailing and forgetting things or going off track or not listening to your advice. The reason it is because its memory is full, so its context window cannot encapsulate the entire chat. So
Is it like a first in, first out? So like
Yes.
it just
yes,
so it just goes like this.
yes.
Okay.
So the idea is making sure that you're not doing one mega long conversation. The moment you feel, okay, I can ditch this context and start a new one, it's better to do that, or else that conversation is just gonna derail.
Interesting. Okay. Is that
Yep.
same in projects? Like when you're putting projects? and
Yeah, so
you're loading it?
if you want the same context to exist for all the conversations in a project, make sure you're adding those into the files section.
Yeah.
And then anytime like you feel, okay, I want this context for every single other chat, just make a PDF and load it back into the files.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great. I did some of that, but not to that piece. So I love
Yeah.
that.
So, but hearing that you like it being an assistant and, helping you planning trips in your schedule, I think you should start dabbling in Claude and
Okay.
the premium feature, because it does 2 things. It can connect to your Google Calendar and can connect to your Google Drive on its own. I'm not talking about you can like add files to it. And you can treat it like a true personal assistant if you create the equivalent of projects in Claude and give it like instructions and all of that. And then you can turn it into a personal assistant that you ask it in the morning. Say, hey, every morning at 8 a.m., give me a roundup of my day. Check out all my Google Calendar. Who do I need to respond to? What meetings I need to prep? etc. It can look through your Google Drive, and it can help you as a true, virtual assistant.
Yeah.
That's one thing, but that's an additional $20 a month for another service.
I'll swing it.
Yeah. The other suggestion is Google's Notebook LM. That is first and foremost, it's used for studying. And and if you remember when I was messing around with podcast generation, that's the tool that generates podcasts. But it's designed specifically for studying. And the way it works is you feed it a lot of source material, a lot of PDFs, a lot of, things that you don't want it to stray from. And then you can ask it questions to help you understand what is there in those PDFs. What that means is if you get 7 PDFs that are client requirements, you can create a new project in Notebook LM, feed it all of those requirements, and then feed it your current plan and start asking it questions, because it is tuned to not hallucinate, not be creative, not search the internet, but stick to the documentation that you've given it. So with that tool, if you're cramming for a test, which is the main use case for it, or if you have someone who sent you 100 pages of requirements and needs a
We just talked about that. If it could just happen to me.
yeah, and you need to give out a proposal in 2 days.
Yeah.
That's the tool to check out. So, I guess this is me giving you a bit of homework. Check out those tools.
Yep.
Let me know what happens, and I will make sure next time we're on the podcast, we give the listeners an update.
Dude, consider it done. I have an idea, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what it would look like or what it needs to look like, but I think it might be fun to do an episode that somehow is like purely AI, not generated, but like purely like AI driven. Like everything we do, we have to load in and see what happens or comes out. It can be a one-off episode. It'd be like it's like a premium episode. You have to pay $1.99 to hear the episode or something.
This is my own opinion, and James Bond is not associated with this opinion.
Okay.
With that being said, there's a lot of people who create content around AI that do that, and they try to portray expertise that they don't have by leveraging these AI tools. I worry that we would get lumped in with that
group.
Correct.
I want to find an angle that would be fun and funny.
You know me. I'm like I wordsmith this in my head.
You're a purist.
No, I wordsmith this in my head to make sure I don't offend anyone, because I could easily just, make a lot of enemies right now. Let's just say I would rather not do that. I think the value of our conversations is more around high-level strategy and, C-suite thinking about their systems and their approaches, and we don't want to go into the weeds of actually showcasing the AI tools.
Thank you for being that like solid, grounded value set that keeps us on track.
We don't talk about anything that we don't know. Anyway, moving on.
I talk about things I don't know all the time, dude. I don't know. Speak for yourself.
So you said let's not turn it into an AI episode. I'm telling you it's going to be an AI episode, and has nothing to do with my new job. I promise.
Okay.
But if you need AI help, I'm joking. We work in the HubSpot space, and HubSpot is very AI forward. They're putting all their eggs into the AI basket. And as partners in this ecosystem, we're kind of nudged into doing the same. And HubSpot has been adding AI agents. They've been doing a lot of AI quality of life updates inside of the tool. They even have, the Content Hub suite of content remix and content generation tools. Those are nice and dandy. But they recently announced an open beta that allows you to have AI-powered workflow actions, and people saw them and said, big whoop, moved on, and nobody cared. And that kind of reminded me of the time where UI extensions started being a thing. They started in Sales Enterprise, and then HubSpot found that there's value in these UI extensions, and they made them a CRM enterprise feature. So like any enterprise hub you can have access to them. And people looked at UI extensions, they were like, oh, cool, big whoop, moving on. Same thing's happening here. And I feel like the lack of imagination that people have kind of makes these kind of groundbreaking features, people just gloss over them, and they kind of focus outside of the ecosystem on all these new agents and all these orchestration platforms, and everybody's like, oh, what's the new tool that I'm going to connect 17 other platforms to and it's just going to do all my job? Everybody's distracted by that, but nobody's focusing on HubSpot AI-powered workflow actions. And I see you nodding, but I feel you also don't truly understand why I'm not going to say excited, but I feel like this is like a new paradigm in workflows inside of HubSpot. Do you have an idea why I would be excited about this?
I can tell you why I am. Because it's right in line with everything I talk about with AI, which is use it to make things better, use it to do your job better, use it to enhance whatever you're doing to make it better, right? Utilize something that you didn't have, something that's needed to make it better. I love that. I absolutely love it.
So, workflows in HubSpot typically work in a very binary fashion. Workflows start with a trigger. Has this trigger been met? Yes, let's do the workflow. Trigger not met, we don't do the workflow. If we want to make decisions, our decisions are very binary. Is this filter met? Yes, go in this branch. Is it not met? Go in this branch. Very clear, very based on structured data. If the information is not in a property or in a place that is very structured, workflows tend to struggle in making decisions using those. And a lot of times when we're designing systems, we end up, having to create a task for a human to go and review something and then, unpause the workflow and continue the work. You're familiar with this. A lot of your day actually is basically going through a task queue and figuring out what a workflow has told you to do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of what my day should be. Doesn't mean it necessarily is, but that's
no. For anyone listening, James is great at his job, and he always finishes his tasks right on time. He even predicts the tasks before they happen.
Yeah. Great at my job, and getting my tasks checked off are not synonymous.
But
sorry,
joking aside, there's a lot of, create task for a human to review and then continue the workflow. What AI has shown us that it's capable of is taking a lot of that unstructured data and analyzing it and giving us back a response. What that means is any piece of data that is accessible by HubSpot workflows, which includes the normal subset of, drop down, single line text, everything. Now you add to it long notes, big, multi-line text fields from form submissions, emails, meeting transcriptions, all of that juicy context that typically cannot be used in workflows. Now you can feed it to an AI-powered workflow action and do the same thing you would do in a chat GPT, conversation, but in an automated fashion. People who use, external agents are going to tell you, whoa, this is very rudimentary, very basic. We're light years ahead. But honestly, they lack the context that people who are in businesses that bought HubSpot, they just want to get back to the thing that makes the money. They don't want to fiddle around with the tech. They don't want to fiddle around with the latest cutting edge AI agents, and they're busy putting value in the world, and they just want stuff to work to help them put more value in the world. So what I just told you sounds theoretical. Let me put this in a concrete example. If people are listening are familiar with Arrows, which is an onboarding tool that integrates with HubSpot. Kim Hacker on their marketing team is amazing. She does phenomenal job doing product marketing, and recently posted a use case explanation that uses these AI-powered workflow actions. What her workflow does is it goes and looks at a record, sees the latest sales activity, be it a note or a logged email, parses through them, analyzes them, and gives back a next steps response. That way we can know what are the next steps, and then feeds it into a property that they use in their deal board view. That way they can understand at a glance which deals need a meeting, which deals need a proposal, which deals need a callback, etc. And those are different from your stages, because you might say, oh, if it's in this stage, this is what next steps are. That's not true all the time, and a lot of the context is lost. But with this use case using AI, we extracted the context from those emails, from those sales notes, and put them in a very structured way. Now that I've described this, tell me, what are your thoughts, and does it jog your memory into situations that needed a human intervention, and now with this tool might not necessarily need it anymore?
Yeah. What comes up for me is what we talked about an episode or two ago about the end of quarter. So let's say you do some prep and you're running something that can't be too elaborate because it's very specific, but some of that reply or lack of reply can be turned into real action items without having to do what I was saying I would have to do, which is go find the situation and go research it and figure out. It's not that it takes me forever, but it's one deal and it's time that I can be doing other things. And so picking up urgency is very difficult, and lately it's very top of mind out there, by the way.
Yeah.
I've had it come up a lot where companies want to know, and this may be kind of an interesting sort of sweltering to a little bit of what we sort of talk about, which is the impersonable communication, the lack of the human touch, and the increase in automation. Because it's not just cold emails that are automated, right? We have automation during both of our processes with our own clients. Like there's all kinds of automated things that are happening. And so there is a certain component, even though we're in tech, I'll speak for our business. We're very communicative. It's a very person to person business, right? Yeah. Company policy, camera on, like we are there to connect. So, but even then we still have automation surrounding the client experience. We still have automation surrounding management of a project, management of a deal. So we have that automation happening, and a lot of companies have it like a lot, like it's heavy in that stuff. And so it's creating that impersonable experience, lack of human touch. And that might be part of what's driving some of the leadership that I'm talking to a lot to say, like, I want to know if there is like any kind of discontent rumbling in my crowd, in my people, in my customers. And so great example of how to get that. Great example of how to get that.
I'm gonna describe another use case that doesn't remove the humans from the process, but makes sure that the humans are involved at the right time. If you have a meeting note taker that is integrated with your HubSpot instance that feeds meeting notes automatically to the deal record or a contact record, now you can have an automation that checks every time that a new meeting notes are added to the record, parses through the content of the meeting notes, and checks for signs of irritability, signs for anger, signs for a customer that is not happy. Then you can update a note. You can update a property, say risk of churn high, and then make a note summarizing why this was noted as risk of churn high, and then create a task for your CS team to follow up and make sure that the customer is taken care of.
Yeah.
So
Love
imagine.
that.
So this is not removing the humans. This is making sure the humans are there at the right time.
Yeah. Well, and to some extent, it's backup for the human too, because let me give you an example that came up. I won't specify too much, but so we had a situation where there was a discussion. It was a client meeting with some of our team members, and there was a discussion. The two team members had a different perception of how the meeting went.
Yeah.
That actually happens all the time. But in this case, it was pretty stark difference. And I guess what comes up for me is what if this one just didn't say anything, or maybe was on a call and therefore was not in this team meeting? We wouldn't have gotten that there was a different perspective. And so great backup to say, whoa, this was caught, touch base with whoever on your team to, this needs a conversation.
Yeah.
And that's what the leadership that I'm talking with are talking about. Not necessarily what I just said, but like, it's not this is what's funny. You and I talk about this all the time, where people get sort of protective of like Big Brother, and they think, oh, I'm going to get called out. They're not coming to these conversations with that in their mind. That's not where they're coming from. Like, I feel like everybody should just calm down. They're coming to it out of care and concern for the customer, out of doing what they can to protect the company. And in essence, it's protecting the people that are dealing with them directly, because now you've got the cavalry's coming. You got some backup. You got some, hey, we got a problem, right?
Yeah.
And so I love the concept of, it's just backup. I mean, I was on 12 recorded calls today, and I don't want my customers to hear this, but I don't remember the third phone call. I really don't. 12 calls is a lot. And I rely on AI not to make decisions for me on the calls, but I do rely on making sure the right information was captured, because I can't take notes for 12 calls. I just can't do it. It's too much.
Yeah.
And so, it's recorded. If I screw up, it's documented. Okay. I'd rather have the backup, man.
Yeah.
I'll take the backup any day. So anyway, that's what comes to mind for me.
So like I mentioned, people lack imagination with these sort of tools, where the tool set is presented as like you can do whatever you want with it if you understand how it works, but people don't know what they want. They don't know what is possible. They don't know that, I can use it for detecting things that would require a human to go, record by record, go read transcripts, read notes. AI is great at doing that. I definitely don't want AI to be, handling my conversations with my clients. Similar to what I'm starting to witness, not in our space, but like I'm seeing a lot of, people recording that they had a job interview, and they start a virtual interview with a recruiter, and the recruiter is either off camera and the voice is obviously AI, or using an avatar, that is super uncanny, and they're trying to pass it off as a real person. But like, it's more and more apparent that there are leaders that are taking the wrong moves. So we're trying every day to make sure leaders take the right moves.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what to do about the recruiting space, man. If you want to, I'm just going to poke at them. We do a lot of business in the recruiting space, by the way. So there may be some people that listen that don't like what I have to say, but like, that space needs to get in check.
yeah,
Like, they need to get in check. I mean, come on. Like, what are you doing? Your goal is to find a human being to fill a role in a company full of human beings. You don't think interaction's important? Like, you don't think like that is going to play some part of how this experience goes?
yeah.
And you're just going to completely robotically take out any of the personal connection? I suppose there's a human conversation before there's a hire in most cases, I assume. But, I mean, man.
The problems typically are the people who are being filtered by the robots are the ones that could have been a better option. And honestly, for that space, I've heard some really good cases where a leader does a secret shopping mission and tries to apply to their own recruiters, ends up getting rejected, and then proceeds to fire the team responsible for that process. So at least there are some leaders there that know a thing or two and are trying to resolve these processes. But
so I was listening to who was it? It was the dang it, I can't remember who it was. It was one of the AI platforms, and he was basically saying, look, he was getting grilled on the future, and the line of questioning was around search and whether Google's losing share and the competitiveness between OpenAI and other. And he's like, this conversation is not valuable to me, huh?
Is it Rand Fishkin?
Yes, I think it was
from SparkToro. Yep.
Yes. So he was saying, look, this is the wrong conversation. I love it when interviewees like just say, this is the wrong conversation. Why are you asking me about a commodity? That's a commodity. Search is a commodity, right? But when we will be able to create a conversation that leads to a search, that leads to identifying potential candidates, that leads to an automatic scheduling between calendars and the person, an interview, and I don't have a problem with that. I really don't.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily excluding somebody, and it's not avoiding the fact that there needs to be a human interaction. It's how do I get some candidates in for this job? I don't really have a problem with that. But I have a problem with the approach of just purely systematizing human beings. Like, it's just such a miss. I don't know what to do about it.
It's dehumanizing.
It keeps me up at night, man. It really does.
Dehumanizing.
Man, it's a struggle, and it's a little bit runaway. I don't know quite what to do, but
on that happy note,
we've had some depressing moments in this conversation. You know what? Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. I feel like, parents that had teenagers in the 60s were having the same exact conversations. Just the topic was different. The topic was sex, drugs, and rock and roll is going to destroy us all. And you know what I mean? So, I mean, there's going to be something that you're worried about the future, but boy, you got to think this could run amok pretty quick.
I always chuckle when I remember that there were ads at 10 p.m. that asks parents, do you know where your child is?
Yeah. Holy smokes.
Anyway,
Today they do, because it's on their phone.
Yeah, they have tracker apps and whatnot.
That's right.
James, this was fun. We're back on track. We'll definitely pick up the cadence again. And we promise you next time it won't be just AI. But if people want to find you, where could they find you online?
And I'm on LinkedIn at James Bond Advantage. I need to be a little bit more present. I was excited and doing a lot, and I got so busy and I've been off. I need to get back on my game. But that's
Don't.
where I am.
It's okay. That's why you have me. And I'm Selim Maalouf on LinkedIn, and we recently started uploading these to Spotify. So if you enjoy listening to podcasts, you can listen to Spotify. I have yet to break the Apple account barrier, so it's not on Apple Podcasts yet. But please let me know. Comment if you want it on Apple Podcasts. I will make the effort. But thank you again for listening, and hope to see you next time.